Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Midweek Chat with Jasmine. I'm your host, Jasmine Bryant, your brand visibility coach, helping women coaches, speakers, authors, and small business owners over 40 get visible, get paid, and have the life that you want and deserve. So, today, I'm super pumped. We have Delisa Abraham. She is a leadership development expert, an executive coach, an international speaker who enjoys creating leaders and helping others reach their full potential. And who doesn't want to reach their full potential?
I don't
Welcome,
know.
Delisa.
Who?
Right? Who?
Who
Who? The world is your oyster, people.
knows?
you know?
It really is.
So welcome. Welcome. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me, and to everyone that's tuning in and or watching the replay, thank you guys so much for being here. You know what? It is going to be an incredible session. I already know it.
Right? Like
Yes.
you and I, we've chatted so
Yeah.
many times over the past year or so, and it's always an amazing conversation. And I always learn so much from you. And I know people are going to really get a lot out of this conversation today. So before I jump in and start asking you 8 billion questions that are running through my head, tell us a little bit more about what it is that you do and who you serve. I mean, I just gave like
Yeah.
your nickel bio, but give us a little bit more.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so what do I do as a business strategist, essentially, or business development strategist? I help you with your business. I help you structure it and lay the foundation. The reason why I'm doing this and I kind of focus on this is because when your foundation is shaky, your building will collapse. It's just a
Mhm.
fact. I can't even make this stuff up. It's just laws of physics.
Right.
And what I have encountered is that many people will have a business. They're they have their coaches. They're doing all of these things. Maybe they're even making money, but they have zero foundation. They have no structure, and because there's a lot of missing pieces that are happening, they eventually burn out, stressed out, overwhelmed, and or the business collapse
Mm.
because they don't understand the other piece, the other financial piece. They are focused on the money aspect, which is
Mhm.
necessary because we need it,
Yeah.
but you need a foundation to help support that. If you don't have that, then you're just running in circles and you're not going to get anywhere. Um,
Yeah.
so from that perspective, I work with entrepreneurs in that, and as well as other businesses. I'm a board advisor, so going in and leading leaders as a board. I'm a vice chair on the board, and also being mentored by the president as well. So I'm getting to understand the things that I'm teaching entrepreneurs how to do it on a scale, on a larger scale, where millions and millions of dollars are coming through every year. So this is when you know that
Yeah.
if you're not good at what you're doing, you can't be there. Well, yeah. And so that's what I do in terms of leadership. I'm a wholehearted believer in leaders building leaders, and it starts with ourselves. I was
Mhm.
in the military for almost 14 years of my life, and I had to learn how to follow before I could even lead. And it's kind of like little children. They can't just automatically be leaders right away, right? They all have to
Right.
kind of follow each other, and then on the playground, they kind of figure out who's who in the zoo. And so, as I spent time in the military, that's when I started. I got my leadership certification. I was teaching leadership. I was in leadership positions for many years. I went on tour. And so I'm coming from that perspective in terms of leadership. And my main focus is on team building and communication. And there is a strategy to it, there is a formula to it, to help with the success with it. And I
Mhm.
will share with you, it is very different from the male perspective. I'm sharing this from a female perspective because how we lead and how we communicate and how we build teams is different than how
Yeah.
the masculine will approach it.
Oh, absolutely. And to that point, I want to kind of go back to your military background for a second because, you know, when you think about someone who's in the military, whether you are, like one of the grunt recruits, or you are, higher in rank, there's a structure. Like you said, like you have that foundation. There is a structure there. And there is a path, like there is a clear path that you follow.
Mhm.
And so does your military background, um does it color like how you coach people and how you develop leaders?
Ah, I really enjoyed this question. When I left the military, it was very, very hard for me to transition to civilian, exceptionally hard. And the reason why is because there's a hierarchy and there's a structure, and I'm coming from a male dominated space. And then from there, I went into corporate and I realized people had feelings and you couldn't, like, you could cry. Like, yeah, I mean, you could cry too in the
Yeah,
military, but you kind of hide it. You have to wait till whatever's going on to pass,
right.
and then you go in your room and then you cry, or release in any way, right?
Yeah.
Get it out. Um, and so, yes, it does influence because I'm taking the foundational part, the structural part, the things that um, have been taught for centuries, dare I say, that still works today. But now I've infused it into who I am in my authentic self, into where I'm at right now. So it's a blend
Mhm.
of both. So it's not hard all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up though, because, we have feelings, right? And that goes back to the masculine and the feminine
Mhm.
of coaching and just being a leader and being in business, because it is so different.
Yeah.
Um, what are some of the challenges that you find that women face when they're trying to develop their own leadership style or their leadership skills?
Yeah, definitely. Imposter syndrome, people pleasing, perfectionism,
Mhm,
um, not good enough, which I mean, that kinds of boundary setting. Boundary setting is huge.
mhm.
I'll just leave it at those ones. And the reason why is because majority of the time we're pretending to be someone that we are not,
Yeah.
especially when we are in a male dominated space. And it doesn't matter what
Mhm.
space it is, most of it or it is male dominated.
Yeah.
Um, and so we start off generally with good intentions. I'm going to stay true to me. As you start climbing through the ranks in terms of your position in any business or wherever you're at, you start recognizing the whole dynamic is changing, and your leaders may be good and or bad,
Mhm.
and they're leading from their experience, their wisdom, which could be good or bad.
Yeah.
And so when you're going through that process and you're going through the ranks, one of the biggest pieces that I found for myself personally was taking time for myself to figure out who I am and actually understand what type of leader I wanted to be. And I had to learn how to effectively listen. I had to learn how to communicate strategically. I had to learn all of these different dynamics so that I can still be true to who I am, but at the
Mhm.
same time, give them the results that they need.
Yeah. And you said something really key there, and I hope you guys are really focused and paying attention to what Delisa's saying, because it a lot of it goes to what I talk about a lot with being visible. Be yourself,
Mhm,
know who you are so that you can be yourself, and, you know that who you are is enough to get you where you need to be. And it's the same thing when you are becoming a leader in your business, because if you are in business,
mhm,
whether you are just you or you
mhm.
have employees, you have VAs, you are the leader of your organization. And so it's the same skills there,
Yeah,
folks. You need to be who you are at all times, know who you are, and you'll start to thrive that way.
yeah.
And some of that imposter syndrome will go away too, like once you really know yourself and know your worth,
100%. Mhm. It
you
does
know?
go away. And then there's no such thing as well, not that there's no such thing as imposter syndrome, but then you don't feel like guilt. You don't feel
Mhm.
shame. And it becomes easier to set your boundaries.
Yeah.
I will give a good example. I remember when I left the military, going into corporate, and I had imposter syndrome. Why? Because I was in an environment where I was successful. I was good at what I was doing.
Mhm.
Um, I really was. You know, the people liked me, and my team and I, we gelled really well together. And let me tell you, I was working with all kinds of people, coming with all kinds of things and
Mhm.
baggage and stress.
Yeah.
And then, of course, so I was in the Army and the Navy. But so being in the Navy, now you're sailing and you're sailing for months on end. So you are close to your hundred and how many ever friends
Yeah.
you may and or may not like, but
Yeah.
you still got to work with them because
Yes.
it's survival, right?
Right, your only other option is to go overboard.
Yeah, well, and nobody wants to go overboard in the middle of the ocean. I mean, it's already hard enough because, when it comes to just even getting reception, yes, we had the cell phones from time to time, but so most of the time you're not getting reception with your
Yeah.
cell phone. So when I came out and now it's time to work, I went to work at a university. And I sort of let me start off easy. I'll go do admin stuff. I would, administrator. This is something that I can do. It's easy, and I can kind of figure out myself. Really great position, loved it, but I had imposter syndrome because
Mhm.
I didn't feel like I was skilled enough to do the work, even though I actually knew how to do the work, if that makes any sense. And so I
Yeah.
see a lot of women, because I went through it too. Sometimes we're in a new environment and we can still do the job. Like we got the job
Mhm.
because clearly we're qualified, we're
Clearly.
educated, we have the
Yeah.
experience. But then we get there and because we have this imposter syndrome, now this negative talk ourselves goes
Yeah.
down and we're projecting out to others that we're not capable to do the work.
Mhm.
And there's all of these different dynamics that come with it. And then something that is so easy um, becomes really hard for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
Yeah.
And so this is why, and I share this because one, most people don't share that and they don't talk about it. They just share about imposter syndrome and
Mhm.
people pleasing. But that is a real thing that we can shut down, not just women, but also men. You can be
Yeah.
as qualified, as skilled, as experienced. But if you're in that people pleasing or imposter syndrome and you have guilt and all of these
Mhm.
things, something as simple as sending an email can be hard because
Yeah.
you're just like, what am I doing?
You're gonna overthink it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So how do you break free from that? Like, how do you help your clients get out of that mind space? Because the noise can be
Yeah.
so loud
Mhm.
and just completely deafening. If you and it's everything, it's consuming. So how do you get them out of it?
Excellent, excellent question. Well, one, no, it's a process because it is. You're not going to get out of it within the first week. Two, you need to be aware of this and be willing to make the change. I
Mhm.
think a lot of times people say they want to make the change, but they're not fully ready to commit to make the change. And then the third piece, which these are all very simple things. I know you hear this a lot, but they they are very effective. And then that third piece is going in and taking a look and figuring out why.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? Why? And a big reason why sometimes we're having these imposter syndrome and we're not setting the boundaries and we're feeling um, guilt or whatever it is that we're going through. When you look at your why, it's because you're realizing this is not what I'm meant to do. This is not where
Mhm.
I'm meant to be. That's a huge piece. I'm
Yeah.
not meant to really be here. Um, and then that other piece, when you kind of figure it out too, because that piece may not be for everyone. Maybe you are meant to be there, but maybe that's not the. Maybe you need to kind of pivot a bit. You need to
Mhm.
tap into more of that passion inside, that more authentic piece of who am I? Who am I? What is my next step? When we ask these questions, now it becomes easier for us to walk in our authentic self. And this is exactly what you do in your program, and what you
Mhm.
share. You're always dropping these golden nuggets that saying, "Hey, come back to the gold mine. The gold mine is here," right? Which is your courses, and you're sharing
Mhm.
these like little tidbits. Why? You need to be visible. You need to be clear. You need to be concise. You need to show your face, right? All of
Yeah,
those things really comes back to you asking yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing?
right.
Right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And you brought up so many great points, and I really hope you guys are paying attention. If you have any questions, just pop them in the chat. I see a couple of folks have popped on live, and if you're watching the replay, then still pop
Mhm,
them in the chat. We can answer them for you. Um, but you talked about so you talked about, you know, figuring out why,
mhm,
right? And I loved when you were saying that maybe the imposter syndrome is there because that's not what you're meant to do.
mhm,
And I think as women, we get into a space where this is what we've plotted out for ourselves, or this is what has been plotted out for us. And so we're going to continue on that path, even though it's not our path.
mhm.
And as you're starting to develop your leadership style, your leadership skill, then you have this voice in the back of your head saying, who are you to lead this team? You aren't, this isn't part of your path.
Mhm,
And how, so so say if you are on the not so right path,
mhm,
right? And you find yourself in a space, in an environment where it's not quite meant for you, but you're here.
mhm.
How do you deal with that? And and then still rock it, because whether it's your path or not, you
Yeah.
still probably want to get paid.
Yeah.
So how do you overcome all those things? And I know it is a process, but how do
Yeah.
we, like, what's the first step they do? This isn't quite my path, but I'm going to still keep going forward until I'm able to pivot, or
Yeah.
I want to be successful where I am right now.
Well, one, change your attitude. Well, like, don't be like, well, I'm not supposed to be here and this sucks. Change your attitude. And I completely understand. And things I'm telling you guys is because I've experienced it. I will share most of my military experience because it was more intense. But
Yeah.
even though corporate world is like a whole other jungle in itself, and very intense.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember when I wanted to transition from Army to go Navy. I went through a very, very challenging time.
Mhm.
And but I knew that I had to change. And there was all these different struggles and stuff that was happening, not within me, but they didn't want to sign my release forms to go over and stuff. And I remember I had to go get a job because I need to get paid.
Mhm.
At the time, I was a reservist. So I only got paid when I showed up,
Yeah.
or I was on a contract. And so, but I knew I had to move. So I got a job working in a coffee shop because I was like, I have to do this, but I didn't want to go into a position or into a role because at the same time I was finishing up my university degree, that where I was sacrificing all of these other things and I wasn't sure where things were going. And I remember applying for at different places, and then of course the coffee shop. And the manager that hired me, she's like, "You're way overqualified. Like, but you've been in the military, so I'm going to hire you, and this is great." And nobody would hire me, nobody. So of course now I'm doubting myself. I'm questioning
Yeah.
like, what's wrong with me? What's going on? I can do this. And so did was working in a coffee shop my first choice? Heck no, it was not. But it
Yeah.
was my only choice at that time, and this one day she hired me, and it was down from my house. And I remember saying to myself, how are you going to approach this? And I had to shift my thinking from where I was, this like path in the road. I knew I wanted to go down one way. I knew I still had my university stuff to finish. I needed money because I was living on my own at that time. And,
Mhm.
the rent comes every month.
Yeah, whether you have it or not.
Whether you got it or not, you still got to pay it or you got to leave. And and when I went through that, then it was like, okay, I would wake up early. Like I was doing an afternoon shift. A morning shift came. I'm like, I like mornings. I wanted to work mornings. That was my first shift, my first internal shift. I'm sharing this is
Mhm.
because I want you guys to go through this process with yourself. Then I started doing my prayer and meditation more diligently. And through that process, now I was getting more in tune. Who am I? What's in my heart? What is my beliefs? What is my value? Retapping back into my authentic self.
Always goes back to authenticity.
Yes, yes. And you
Being
shared
you.
a lot about this. And then the next phase that I did was okay. And I was like working out. This was before I had my daughter, by the way. And so I was working out. And because I was working morning shift, I took a 5 a.m., the 5 a.m. shift. So
Mhm.
I was waking up by 2 o'clock and I started working out because I had to still do my prayer and meditation. And because I was doing that early, I was like, all right, I'm going to work out early, even though I was still like doing biking and stuff in the afternoon. And I would do that. And because I started to move my body and doing my meditation and my prayer and working at that time, it was a shift work. I situated where I'm working in my ideal time. And what
Mhm.
people forget is that we get used to working 8 to this or 8 to 4 or 9 to 5 or whatever time frames that we have, but our bodies, like energetically, how we are. Some people function best in the mornings. Some people function best in the night. Some people function best in the evening. And with anyone that is into the health and wellness space, into the fitness space specifically,
Mhm.
especially if you're doing Tai Chi, martial arts, stuff like that, they will tell you because your energy peaks
Yeah.
at certain time. Like that's your prime period. So because I know my prime like energy
Yeah.
cycle, I aligned everything to fit into
Yeah.
a morning that went into. So by then the afternoon I came home. Yeah, I needed a rest because I was tired because I'm up by like
You're
one
up at
thirty in the
2.
morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm doing stuff. I'm at 1:30. But then I took a nap and get up and do all that stuff. And my attitude changed. Now I was
Nice.
excited to show up at this coffee shop because I didn't see myself showing up at a coffee shop. I saw myself gaining experience in communication. I saw myself gaining experience in team building, teamwork. Now you have to remember at that time when I was in the army, at that time I was a master. So I just did leadership training and then they put me on a what do you call it? Course to teach as an
Mhm.
instructor. And so I knew that.
Yeah.
I came from a world very militant and masculine and direct.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I came and I show up at like 24, 25 years old and people are like, "Oh, my back hurts." And what do you mean your back hurts? Like get it done. Like and I don't mean this in a negative way. It was just like that
Right.
was so I
But
came
that
and
was how you were. Like,
yeah.
that's how you were trained. That was
Yes. Yeah.
ingrained in you.
Yeah, just do the work and afterwards put some ice on it. You
I
know,
love
like or lay down and put your feet up, like decompress it. But I had to like oh, so I had to like develop my empathy. I had to develop my communication, and then I had to develop my reason. Why am I here? What is the main purpose of why I'm here? And I actually really enjoyed working at that coffee shop. It was the best experience because the communication skills that I'm teaching or I'm sharing in the team building stuff. Then when I went back in and I started to go full time in the Navy, I applied it. I
Mm.
ended up applying it, and I applied it for years, and so it helped. And I came out, and now it is what it is. So
Yeah.
long story, but I just wanted to share it with you how you get in and you go through that process. Take it one step at a time. And
Yeah.
then the mindset obviously will start shifting, and that your
Mhm.
heart, your mind, your spirit starts aligning together. And then once
Yeah.
you're in alignment, it people call it synchronicity. But
Mhm.
it because you're aligned, everything just the doors that are already open would open, and the
Yeah,
people you're meant to connect with will connect with.
exactly.
And then you're not feeling imposter syndrome, and you're not feeling people pleasing and all of these things. And as I said, there is a process, but
Yeah.
yeah,
No, and it's so true, and, it reminds me of, a line from a musical. I'm a Broadway junkie,
yeah,
but it reminds me of a line from a musical, where it's like, you change the world when you change your mind,
yeah,
and that is it exactly. Like, you decided, "This is how it's going to work for me,"
yeah.
and then everything else just fell into place. You change your mind, change your heart. It just works.
Hmm. It
So,
absolutely does.
yeah. Well, we're out of time. This has flown by. I popped your Calendly link in the chat. So if anyone wants to connect with Delisa and get on a call and learn how she can help you be a much more empowered leader and how you can really take your business and your life to the next level, her link is right there. You want to talk to her, my friends. Trust me. Anyone who's new to me, I also dropped in my 5 keys to beat camera shyness. So you can click that. It's a free resource for you. And Delisa, thank you so much for being here with us today. I really appreciate you and your time, and your stories are great.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I know you learned some new things about me today.
I did. I did. Every time we talk, I learn something new, and I love that.
Well, great. I know. And
Absolutely.
you know what? The next time we speak, maybe I will share stories about being on the board and how that is helpful. I want to share one thing with you. I know we're out of
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
and
Go
I
for it.
want to share with the people who are listening or who's watching the replay what you guys are receiving in terms of Jasmine's programs and courses really are beneficial. I'm on the board at a nonprofit. One of the first things I did before I even signed up, and there's a couple others that I'm on as well, but I'm going to speak about one in particular. I saw their social media. And if anyone knows anything about nonprofits, they they get funding and stuff, and they have all the whole teams and
Mhm.
everything, but their social media is always lacking, and it comes with
Yeah.
visibility. And so when it comes to their funding piece, hence part of what I do in terms of business, um, they don't have that strategic approach to connecting with
Mhm.
potential donors, people in the community, right? Business owners. And so they're doing all the things they're supposed to do, but then they're missing out on a whole pool of it. So I've been following Jasmine. We've been following each other and supporting each other for a while now. And that's one of the things. We have a holiday drive coming up, and I think I shared that with you about posting. But in that holiday drive, I was like, what are we doing with our social media? That's
Yeah.
like one of the first things and so I went into my contact list, I went into my network, and I was asking people like, can you share on your platform? Can you this? And I work with a young man, his name is Naeem, and he does marketing. And we had a conversation. I said, because I asked him before I went, because we were working together, I said, can you do research? I don't need much stuff, just I want to make sure my thoughts are correct. And then I extract all your stuff on visibility, right? And I kind
Mhm.
of assembled like a plan in my head for it. And then I said to him, I said, they need help, but their thing. And so he volunteered to
Aw.
help that, like, that's his contribution, right? Instead of posting on
Mhm.
his channel. And one of the biggest things he talked about was because he actually follows you too.
Yeah,
Is
yeah, I know
Yeah,
you're
okay, yeah.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
he he was like, they need visibility, and I go, I know they need visibility. Can you please like share with the outline? Because I went to them and I said, this is. I went in my contacts. I know this came out Sunday, by the way. I got this email Sunday. I was talking to the president, and so we were meeting like in 2 days or something like that. So I said to him like, what can you do? Like, give me your one sheet. I want to share it with them, give them something realistic. So for 60 days, he's going to say, this is the goal, this is the plan. And one of his plan is saying, you have to be visible. Like, we could do all the outreach and we could do all the strategic thing, but they need to see a face of
Yeah.
somebody, anybody. So I tell you guys the story not to waste time, but to share with you that when you're being authentic, the way Jasmine is telling you to be authentic, when she's telling you to show your face, and when she's saying to you, this is what's going to bring in the dollars, because she helps you tell, she even gives you the sales tips. Um, it actually works. And now it's going to be implemented at this organization where I'm a board member. So I'm not going to be working with him specifically because
Mhm.
I'm on the board, right? So the executive director and their social media team will work with them and his team. But just in saying that, he already knows. Yes, he does marketing, but then I'm using these tips to say, this is what we got to implement. This is how we're going to do it. So we can start bringing in donors, potential
Yeah.
donors from the community, so that I can say, when I was there for how many ever years I'm there, this is how I've taken them from like 5 million to 20 million or whatever else, because
Love
we
that.
partnered and collaborated with other organizations in our community, like the big car dealerships and all these other people who are funding us, all because we were visible.
Yes. Yes, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And when you can, put the link to your event in the comments so people can find it.
Yes, I definitely will. I don't think they didn't give me the post yet. I told you I
Okay.
got the letter. When I got the letter, I already went to my con. I'm like, all right, let's get a plan for this. Right, it's 60 days. So yeah,
Yeah.
I will.
Got to plan your work, work your plan.
That's right.
Yes. All right. Well, Delisa, thank you, and thank you for sharing about your nonprofit that you're on the board on, and put the link in, and
Yes.
I'll share it wherever I
Hmm.
can.
Of
You know,
course, of course.
that's that's what we do. Collaboration
Mhm.
is key. Connection is currency. So Delisa Abraham, thank you so much, and we'll
Thank
see you guys